Hello everybody and good morning. My name's Don Arleth and you're watching World Talks here on TVP World. After the recent drone incursions into Polish airspace, Russia has launched a wave of disinformation. False narratives circulating online claim that Ukraine was responsible for the drone attacks or even that the incident never happened. According to analysts, more than 40% of online comments in Poland suggest that Ukrainians were behind the drone's evidence that Russia is effectively manipulating public opinion. To discuss this disinformation war, how it works, what impact it has on Poland, we are now joined by Dr. Katarzyna Maniszewska, a lecturer at International Relations at Civitas University and University of Białystok. Hello, Katarzyna. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Great to see you.
Hello, good morning.
Yes, now let's begin with the basics. How significant was this disinformation campaign following the drone incursions? Did Russia manage to shape the narrative here in Poland effectively?
No, it didn't. And that's, I think, a good thing. And first and foremost, even though you just mentioned that about 40% of comments are propagating the Russian fake news and disinformation, as it seems our decision makers, our politicians, but also the majority of the Polish society simply, well, we don't buy it.
Yeah.
And that is already a sign that we are perhaps more resilient than we think of us. That said, the situation is, of course, far from being optimistic or perfect. The disinformation campaigns are embedded into Russian actions. And it is nothing new. In fact, starting from the Tsarist Russia, then going through the Soviet Union and till today, we see that lies and the strategy of deceiving the enemies is something that Russia is very effectively, unfortunately, doing in international politics. And now, even though they may not be as successful as they would like to be in Poland, we have to remember that those disinformation campaigns are targeted not only to us, Polish citizens, but they also are targeted to the wider international audience. And they are supplemented also by other forms of content, I would say, not only social media, but also official statements by the Russian officials or diplomats, quote unquote, who simply use manipulation, deception, and lies. And then those pieces of content are being further propagated online. And we can see this surge in disinformation, in fake news, the whole ecosystem, I would say, of disinformation that is growing and that has different target groups and is aimed at the very end of the day at divisions in our societies, national societies at the national level, but also at the international level, to instill instabilities, to instill divisions within the European Union, within NATO, within the United Nations, and so on and so forth.
Right. And, here in Poland, just of recent, it's kind of a recent phenomenon that there was, there's this kind of divide in society in Poland, and there's a wave of anti-Ukrainian sentiment. Now, I know that Russia is exploiting this in the information sphere. And is this just a continuation of trying to exploit this narrative that's currently out there?
Yes, and this is a deliberate tactics by Russia. They are looking for pretexts, let's say, for potential conflicts, for topics that can spark and ignite controversies in societies. And then they fuel radicalization and polarization by adding, extreme content on exactly these topics. In our case, and we have also to have in mind that they are not only effective in Poland, they also are having their campaigns in Ukraine, where they also show that the Polish people are the evildoers,
Right.
which is so far from being true. Like we know that in Poland, but Russia is tapping on those sentiments. And one important thing is that research shows, it's already proven, that fake news that are based on anger and very extreme emotions, they propagate the fastest and the farthest on the internet. So these are deliberate disinformation campaigns that use topics that have the potential to radicalize societies. Actually, I believe that this may be one of the biggest security threats that we are facing in the Western world. That is the state-sponsored radicalization, and in this case, sponsored by Russia. And we see how polarized our societies are, and they are not that polarized by itself. We are unfortunately being very effectively helped to be that polarized and to have those levels of acceptance for political violence, extremism. And by the way, it's not something that we observe only in Poland. Here in the United States, it's perhaps really radicalization at high speed these days.
So it's a really difficult subject. So what can we do? I mean, what does society need to do? How can we protect ourselves or combat this very effective use of disinformation and exploiting our emotions, as you mentioned?
I actually think that your role, and I don't mean you personally, but also, but your TV station and other broadcasters is absolutely crucial here. We, the citizens, we need reliable sources of information where we can verify news. And this really is important. And at the end of the day, we can, of course, try to prevent Russia or other malign actors to propagate disinformation. But the truth is they will do so anyhow. What we can do and how we can protect ourselves is to build societal resilience. And that is also invest in education, but also invest in media that are reliable, trustworthy, and that build, in fact, the backbone of a healthy democratic society.
That's very interesting what you said. I'm going to just go ahead and say this. I refer to the time when these drone attacks were happening. I received phone calls from Ukraine, and they were saying that the Telegram channels were absolutely blowing up. The Russian Telegram channels and the Ukrainian ones saying that Poland is under attack and basically that the Russians were deliberately attacking Poland. So I had people calling me, asking if this is, true or not. I guess it's really interesting. It's fascinating to see that the news came from Russia or from Ukraine before it hit the media sphere here in Poland. Is this part of the tactic as well?
Yeah. Yes, and it is embedded. These are not just the drones. Those drones are just a pretext, I would say, to launch yet another boost disinformation campaign. So this is embedded. It's not. It's not an action just in the real world. It's an action in cyberspace. What is especially frightening, I would say, is that those fake news have real consequences. So it may not remain only in cyberspace. And now the colleagues that called you, you mentioned your example, it's a good sign. They call a journalist that they know. And this is really what the society needs. We need media that we can rely on. We need this editorial safety net, let's say. These days, anyone can be a journalist, content creator. And this also is being exploited by all sorts of malign actors. But also people who are I don't like the term useful idiots. I call them unintentional helpers. So people who help propagate those fake news and are part of these information campaigns. But they do this because they believe they do the right thing, because they truly are afraid. They truly are saddened. They want to share this information, in that case, fake news. And this whole ecosystem of disinformation relies on them very heavily. And yet again, we need to have sources of information that we can verify those
Right.
fake news or suspected fake news with.
Absolutely, and the prominence of social media right now, and where people go to for their, quick fix on news, unfortunately, doesn't provide that. So I thank you very much for pointing that out. Katarzyna Maniszewska, lecturer of international relations at Civitas University and University of Białystok. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you. Bye.
And that concludes this edition of World Talks. Thanks for joining us, and stay with us for more here on TVP World.